Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're gonna talk about Canon C70. So let's dive right into it. Well, first we have to understand what the heck we are talking about. We are talking about a low budget cinema camera. Now be mindful, the $5,500 may sound much for a cinema camera that's free. So it's a low budget cinema camera. Now, Canon is a camera company and camera companies are not doing very well for past 5 years. So flat out Canon is trying to trim their lineup and basically remove clutter, so to say. So their main focus is removing all the lens mount they have. Right now they have 3 active parallel lens mount which has grand total of around 4 system, because EF has EFS inside it, meaning they have 4 independent lens branch which they all want to trim out over time. Of course, it's not like bam, no support. They want to slowly phase it out. So all of the lens mount is collaborating into one focus point, and that is Canon RF mount. Now R mount, basically, so to say, is the core focus, and R mount right now in photography is released and they have lenses for it, and all the RF mount system is designed for full frame. That's the whole point. They are not gonna make APC again. It's like, okay, that's the whole focus of it. So while people are taking R mount seriously, but you have to understand C series is also a big lineup of Canon, and enough market share is there in the Canon department that they're like, if Canon is not switching this department, it's not a meaningless, it's not a useful thing. So this is a new lineup, basically completely new. It's not C200, C100, C700. No, it's a new lineup which they will release over time, and it will slowly replace the old series C cameras. So what they have learned from mirrorless and cinema, they are giving it best of the both worlds. So it looks like a basically fancy 5D Mark III. It is big, bulky, but it's very easy to hold. For a cinema camera, it's mind-bogglingly easy to use, comparatively speaking. And it is a 4K camera, so do not expect 6K, do not expect 8K. This is a proper 4K camera, as in like the megapixel count is around 8 megapixel plus, and it can do 120 frames per second, 10-bit 4:2, everything internally, and the core data storage is dual UHS 2 SD card slots, basically same as Canon R6. So this is C70 that we are talking about. Now, what is the logic behind it? Well, logic is people got trolled badly with basically Canon R series and specifically Canon R5, and everything was like unlimited potential, this and that, 8K with autofocus, all that jazz. The reality was that was a sad troll, and many people got trolled after that. It's like, dude, you have a video camera which supposed to be able to do many things but can't do anything at all. So now Canon is saying, no, that's a photo camera. Again, even though for some reason they themselves have announced that camera as a video camera, now they are saying, no, that's just a photo camera. So okay, that's a photo camera. So where is the cinema camera if you want it? This is the cinema camera. Now you may say this is very expensive. Yes, it is, but for a cinema camera it's free. So the core is video camera, and that's why it does not have a 30-minute recording limit. Yes, it is absolutely true that 30-minute recording limit was the cost of basically European Union stupidity, and that stupidity has been corrected for past 2 years. So you can now buy any new camera, and that technically should not have 30-minute recording limit, and Sony has been capitalizing on that puppy very quickly. Like, you can buy Sony A60-100. That is how low you can go on a Sony department and still get unlimited recording time. However, Canon, even though it's been 2 years for that recording limit has been removed, they're not changing it simply because they want to protect this lineup. So now they are like, okay, you want Canon R series, that's for photography. You want Canon C series for videography. So this is a video camera, no recording limit, as in it's designed as a proper video camera. It has a cooling fan. Every architecture of this puppy is designed in such a way that it can endure very long run time. If you want to basically plug a what we call DC power directly and like remove battery and be like, run 24/7 into 365, this puppy should able to endure that for very long amount of time. So it's a proper video camera, and it's a basically similar to what Canon RP is. If at this point in time, if somebody asks me, hey, I want to go into mirrorless system, I want to do a full frame, and I like Canon, I will say go to with Canon RP. It's a very good, very low budget option for what it is. Like, it's mind-boggling. Price to performance ratio is awesome. This is same but for cinema lineup. So benefit of this camera for Canon is, if people start buying this, they will buy Canon lenses with this, and they will be stuck in Canon system permanently. So it's a very good logical argument from Canon side. Now, what are the pros and cons of this? It has two pros that are very uniquely suited to this small factor, low budget kind of system. First is has inbuilt ND filters, and ND filters are not that needed in photography because you have a lot of control with ISO and shutter speed. However, in videography, you do not want to reduce your shutter speed too much. It will start to look very techy and jaggy. You don't want it. You want a bit of natural blur, so your shutter speed is limited. Then the only thing you can reduce is either aperture or basically ISO, and ISO is also limited. You're not gonna buy a camera that has ISO of 10. Flat out, it's not even sold. So flat out, you only space you can do is like, reduce the aperture, but again that removes the background blur. So ND filter becomes an essential kit, specifically if you are doing outdoor and broad daylight. That time you will be surprised how bright daytime sun is, like, because if you can't reduce the shutter speed, you will be like, whoa, every scene is overexposed. So built-in ND filter is really awesome. That means every lens you buy will have ND done to it. So if you need ND, awesome. If you don't need it, don't need it. So it is awesome. Another aspect is there is a new emerging world of what we call influencers. Influencers, their whole basically selling point is basically they're gonna troll you by showing you a world which they are like, oh, this is like, I get out of bed like this. No, they have like a freaking makeup artist and everything is there just to do that. Same goes with their equipment also. Basically they will show you a footage that will look like, hey, it's taken on an iPhone. It's like, something like that. No, there is like a freaking photographer doing that. There is a videographer. Sometimes a whole crew is there just to do that. Now those people want one specific feature, that is vertical videos. Now how do you do vertical video on a cinema camera? You don't. You just lift the camera up. So Canon has thought of that, and they have a vertical tripod mount. So flat out, if you have to do vertical, no problem. Canon has thought of that. So these two features is quite amazing. Another, now this is the core of thing. These things are like, bit of add-ons, but the core, what has fundamentally different in this quote-unquote new lineup is they are using dual gain output. Now in audio industry, this fact that you have a microphone and you have a gain, but what if you didn't have the gain? That started to become realized in past 1 year, that new audio recorders are coming up that are taking one high signal, one low signal, mixing them in one file and giving you the data, and you don't have to change the gain basically anymore. Just like record it, don't think about the levels, record it, then we'll figure it out, because that's awesome. And similar thing can be done in cinema camera, where you have dual gain circuits. Basically, hey, you are doing shooting in broad daylight, you don't need high ISO sensitivity, go with a lower ISO, lower gain, quote unquote. It's a different circuit. So this is what we call dual gain ISO. There is two independent circuits. This is the old way of doing it. What DGO is doing is one step above that. They have dual circuits, exactly same way. Highlight, basically fine tune for highlight, roll off, color accuracy and all that jazz. Another made for high sensitivity. So they have dual circuit, but here's the, instead of making you choose this or that, they are saying why not use both. So they are collecting data from both sensor points and combining them into one video footage per frame. Now mobiles can also do that, but generally what mobile do is they will switch, the one frame would be from low light, one frame would be from highlight, and then they will combine it. So basically they will be shooting at 60 frames per second, and they're gonna give you composite image of 30 frames per second, so you will look like HDR. So this is doing something similar, but parallelly. Basically sensor itself has two data output, one is going to highlights, one is going to low light, and both are being combined into one system. So even if you are shooting at, let's say, 120 frames per second, it's not going to be like, oh, that feature is disabled. It's fundamentally hardwired into it. So this is mind-bogglingly amazing feature, and you're like, did any other camera do that? Yes, this is the core reason why RE has such an amazing camera, like why RE has such a awesome highlights. This is the whole selling point. And the main USP of this camera is, while it is small, while it is Super 35, it has 16 stop plus dynamic range. Now again, this is Canon's claim, but given the technology, given everything everybody else knows about this, it should be close. It should not, like, it should reach a point where you're like, my camera is has low dynamic range, that should not be an issue. Flat out, it's that good. Like at this point in time, if you're saying, okay, C70 does not have dynamic range, people will be like, you are doing something wrong. So that's the whole selling point. However, that's a dual-edged sword. Now, because they are using this DGO technology, they are limited in certain way, because again, the electrical circuit is complicated, and creating an independent video file just so people can edit this camera's footage is not an acceptable option, at least not for them. So they are like, you know what, we're gonna clamp everything down to 10-bit. That's a very big situation issue. So because here's the, yes, for video editing, for YouTube, for Instagram, for Facebook, all that jazz, like for more than enough scenarios in terms of mass production, you got this. But the moment you send 10-bit file for HDR mastering, they're like, no, They will not touch anything below 12 bit. They're like, dude, we need 12 bit, because what DGO is doing is making the HDR content for you. Now if you want to do HDR mastering yourself, that's not flat out. It's like, dude, no, I want to control what's supposed to overexpose, what's supposed to underexpose, and you don't want every scene where you like everything is properly balanced out. You want a bit of emotion, and for that reason people want it like in a higher bit depth so they can control it. So that itself is a very big issue. RE is not like, RE is like custom video format, custom system, and YOLO amount of bitrate, so you can go YOLO on that. Here they are not doing that, and it does not even allow you to have output of that. So like in Sony cameras, you have specifically Sony A7S3, you can buy that. It has 10 bit recording, but you can connect a HDMI output and go YOLO, and you can go upwards of 16 bit raw output. Here you cannot do that, even though that DGO is an option that you can turn on and off. Even if you turn it off, it will not allow you to go above 10 bit. Now that's solely done because they have Canon C300, Canon C500, Canon C70 and all that. But basically Canon has too many models, so they're like crippling it in a certain way. So that 10 bit makes sense with DGO, but the ability that there is a off switch for DGO, why the heck it does not go higher bitrate? It's like, higher bitrate if you disable this system. Because again, DGO is awesome for almost everybody, but any person who knows what they are doing, specifically with HDR mastering, they're not going to touch this. So that's a bit of an issue. So if you love DGO, this camera is the best out there. If you don't, you will hate this. And this is a super 35mm camera, which is fundamentally problematic because of the RF mount. RF mount does not have any APS-C lens flat out. RF mount is only built for one thing, full frame. And to solve this issue, Canon is like, okay, we're gonna give you EF lenses, because EF lenses still have the market majority, because again, they have been rolling for like past 30-40 years. So everybody has EF lens. So they are like, okay, we're gonna give you a speed booster, which is gonna like, take the full frame, compress it down to APS-C, and you're gonna get back some of the, crop performance. So instead of crop of 1.6, it will be like, 0.6 crop. So that's a one way of clawing back the lost aperture and lost field of view, depth of field, so to say. You can do this, and this is quite well built equipment, because they know this. If you want to use this lens, you do not want to be in a situation, oh, I pressed the wrong button, the whole mount freaking fall off. So they have, you want hot swappable, you can do that. So let's say you have a lot of RF lenses and one EF lens, you will be in that mode. But if you want to be like, hey, all my C200, all my C700, all my C500, all of them have EF mount, no problem. You can use the 4 screws to directly bolt onto the camera. So at that point, it will be an EF camera. That is quite of awesome engineering. It's like, makes it fun to use. But you have to understand that fundamental fact that it does not have full frame, and the fact that there is no raw output, and the fact it is making the quote-unquote HDR for you, many people will flat out like, no, that does not make it a cinema camera. Cinema camera means I will decide what happens, not you. So that's a dual-edged sword. Now, what are options? Let's say you are a starting filmmaker or something like that. What are your options? Well, a few years ago, we did not have anything touching 4K, but now we have options. So let's say the lower budget, let's say YouTube is your main game, Instagram is your main game, and Facebook and all that jazz. And all you're gonna do is like, long form interviews and all that jazz, and budget is seriously tight. A7S3 gives you 3 unique things. First, it's full frame, which will give you aperture that flat out will beat any C70 flat out, even with speed booster, because it's native. So that's awesome. Another aspect, low cost, because again, lens is expensive equipment, you have to buy this. So the amount of price you will save, the amount of money you will save compared to C70 to this is enough that you can buy a one zoom lens with ND filters. So that low cost is an interesting thing, and it has 16-bit output. So for many other production where you're like, dude, I want to design the HDR, this camera is like, I got you, bro. 10-bit is not enough, no problem, I got you. And this allows another unique advantage, because this is such a cheap, and if you're just looking at the camera as a unit cost, you can add Ninja V to this, and your price still would be less than this. Benefit of that would be you're gonna be recording in SSD, and if you are in a scenario where quick turnaround is a critical aspect, using SSD for recording medium is priceless. Why? Because you can directly edit the video footage in the SSD, which can be done in Sony, which you cannot do in Canon systems. Now again, technically you can do Canon, but again, for 10-bit it's not that, the file sizes are not that big. So Sony gives you certain advantages which cannot be overlooked. You do not just overlook, oh, okay, Sony, photograph. No, it's really good. It punches way above its weight, and it does have the dynamic range. Large sensor, low megapixel, it has dynamic range more than enough. It's like, again, on paper it may not be like, oh, whoa, it's not complete, but it has low light performance. It has like, good shadows, detail and all that. It's gonna, it's not gonna be like punch it out, but it's like, it's gonna stand there. So it's a very good option. Another option, if you want to go cinema, you are like, to no compromises, Red has released new camera. A company that is known for releasing cheap cameras at $50,000 is known for releasing new camera. This is like $6,000 camera. Again, more or less the same price as C70, but it also has 3 unique selling points. Selling point number 1, 6K. So imagine if every Tom, Dick and Harry can sell you 4K and you come along, no, I'm gonna sell you 6K, bro. Big selling point. That's iffy, but let's say you do not need that, but it does have raw. Flat out, people are not gonna talk about, like if you want to do a cinema, you take Red raw versus Canon's 10-bit limited, there is no discussion here. People are gonna take a Red. No discussion here, done, game over. So that itself is a big deal. Another, it has one unique selling point that is truly amazing. It has global shutter. So if you are doing a lot of actions, or you are putting this in a scenario where camera is going to move a lot, everything is going to move a lot, this would be the only camera that can do that. And given the fact that price is almost the same as C70, and the fact that it also has Canon basically EF and RF lens support and Canon battery, this becomes a much better option. Now again, it's not that easy to use compared to, like, if you give a new C70 versus a Red camera will require him to do a PhD, and C70 is like quite easy to use. That is absolutely true. But if you want just the raw oomph, like, my footage should not be my weak link, this camera is like, I got you, bro. So we have 3 options. So if you want to be in market and you're like, I want a easy, simple solution and I don't need this 12-bit raw and all that, C70 is a really good option. If you're like, dude, I want to do something similar, but I do not have the deep pockets that are needed, Sony is a very good option. If you're like, dude, I'm not that satisfied with the fact that DGO technology and all that, Red is there. So we are in a very good situation where you have 3 options. Now Canon, because of the fact that they have so many products, their product line is very messy. It's like, somebody will look into this, is like, hey, C200 is for cheaper prices, like, let's buy that. It's like, what? Why the heck it does not have this and that? It's very confusing. So we have options. You can make the choice, and please be mindful. Please account for everything cost. Basically, let's say, given the fact you want to do candlelight shoot, Sony is the only one that can do candlelight shoot on the candlelight itself. You do not need other light source. So that is also an interesting fact that people miss. Is like, when you see a video shoot, they spend a lot of money on lights. You need a lot of lights, so that also is a very significant cost. So these are the 3 major options that you have. Make up your mind, what do you exactly need and what suits your need perfectly. So this was my presentation on Canon C70. I hope you liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment, and please leave a comment because I try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.